Hi, Danielle.
Hey, Joan, how are you?
Good. Nice to see you. Happy New Year.
Nice to see you too. Happy New Year.
Yeah, I'm hiding myself only because I got home from kickboxing 2 hours ago. I had Jim Reichert here notarizing something for me. I've been trying to work on something else and been on the phone with a client for like an hour. So I'm in my kickboxing glory. So I'm
Yes.
hiding myself.
Yes. That sounds glorious.
It is wonderful.
Let me see here. I have to figure out how to share my screen more
Good luck with that.
without being the host. Hold, please. Please hold.
You calling mission control, Danielle?
Should talk to you. I don't know how to share my screen without being the host. You know what I mean?
Oh, you want to get Diana?
Yeah, she there still?
Yeah, I think so. Let me go check.
Sweet. Let me check my other email. Oh, I got her. Hello. Hey, how do I become the host for this Zoom to share my screen?
You want Danielle's class? Okay.
Anybody talking on this? No? No volume?
Hey, Billy, I'm here. I'm
Hello.
talking.
Ellie,
How are ya?
not bad, kid. How you doing?
Good. My transaction is still a disaster that I talked to you about the other day.
I was gonna say, did they tell that guy to take a flying leap?
I wish they would, and they won't.
Ah,
They want the house, and we still have nothing signed. There's lead paint that they want to remove, and the guy's like, so I told him it had to be removed by a licensed contractor or someone that went through some lead paint training.
yeah.
He doesn't want to pay that. I'm like, well, that's the law. That's not,
He's gonna disclose it. Like, just say, hey, listen, good luck going to sell your lead paint.
he's already, I mean, they disclosed that there was lead paint in the 3-season room, so she said that they would remove it.
Yeah.
So I said, gotta then he's not interested in hearing anything that's gonna cost him money.
Well, let me know if you need me to break some legs.
I do. I'll give you the address.
All right. So,
Hey, everybody.
hey, Danny.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Good.
Yes.
Woohoo. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
What can you
Yes.
see? A blank Excel sheet? I hope.
Yes.
A
Yep.
blank Excel sheet.
Sweet. Sweet. Sorry about the technical delay there. Now I can share my stuff. All right. So, realtor to business owner. Talk to me, people. Participatory class, right? So you signed up for a class that's called Realtor to Business Owner. What are you looking to take away? What made you sign up?
I want to know what tricks you have to get me to be this like little standalone realtor that does nothing to feel like I own a business. 'Cause right now I feel like all I do is shuffle paper and I don't really run my business. Running like the profit and loss and my expenses and all that stuff comes at the end of the year when I have to do taxes. And every now and again, I do some profit and loss stuff and get my expenses in order, but it's more an afterthought because of something that's needed than thinking about what I'm spending up front before the I have no idea when I do a transaction and I get a commission check. I mean, I know what KW keeps, but
Yeah.
I have no way of knowing what my marketing expenses were for that transaction so that I know ultimately I netted this from selling, that house.
Got it. Got it.
I'm in that
That's
same boat.
Got it.
I agree.
Profit and loss. Anything else?
Just a plan, Danny. I've seen, don't laugh at me, but I still need help. You know that. There's so many people that they're running like wing it realty. They're winging it every day. And I was that guy for many years. And if you don't get replugged in at any time, you can easily go back to wing it realty. You're like, all right, just go back to, what I was doing. So this for me is like a tune up on the car.
Yep. So you were at Wing It Realty and now you're at kind of sort of Wing It Realty?
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on the week.
Exactly. So what made you make that shift?
Honestly, reading the MREA. When I actually started reading the MREA and understanding it, and getting plugged into the right things of a business owner, it was a mindset. You can either choose to be a realtor or a real estate agent, or you can choose to be a business owner. And there's a big difference between the two. And most people choose being a real estate agent over a business owner, and they get caught up in that, and they never go from good to great or mediocre to good.
So everybody chime in here too. So what do you think, besides the profit and loss, what do you think the missing piece is between going from a real estate agent to a business owner, besides the profit and loss?
A plan.
a plan, knowing what you're going to be doing for the entire year and not just like, oh, look, here comes the deal.
Yep.
Knowing that there are deals going to happen down the road, not just by luck.
Exactly, right? A pipeline, like a solid pipeline.
Right.
Yeah. So as we dive in, so what are the top 5 tasks of a real estate agent?
Lead gen.
Uh-oh. We there?
Lead gen. Yep. Numero uno, lead gen.
I got a picture of a Zoom screen on my computer.
A picture of a Zoom screen. Can you still see my screen?
Nope. All I see is a Zoom thing. I
That's
don't
gonna
know
be
what
on
that
yours. I still see the Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, if you look at your task bar down the bottom and click on the blue camera, it looks like a camcorder, we might pop back up.
No. Oh, yep. I can see your Excel screen.
Woo! Okay, so can you see my face too, or just the screen?
No, just the Excel screen, but that's okay.
Oh, son of a gun. You can't even see my mug. I'm like the great and powerful Oz behind the curtain.
It saved me. No, I'm only kidding.
All right, so lead generate. After you lead generate, what do you need to do?
Lead follow-up.
Lead follow-up. So what's the link between lead generation and lead follow-up? What do you have to have in place to have those two things coexist?
System.
A system.
Yeah. Throw out some systems you can think of that bridge the gap between lead generation and lead follow-up. Don't say sticky notes.
I'd like to say command, but I can't. I don't know how
Database.
That's
to use
okay.
it. I've struggled
This
with
all existed way before command.
Sorry.
Database.
I think so.
a calendar.
Could be a calendar. How would you utilize your calendar to bridge the gap between lead generation and lead follow-up?
Reminders.
Yeah, just remind, just putting in, talk to Danielle today on the 11th and put you on, for a week to 10 days later to call you back to find out what's going on.
Yep, exactly. So somebody calls you and says, or you call somebody because you're the lead generator, right? You're not the lead receiver. You're actively seeking out business. So somebody says, oh, I'm not ready to list, but I have my flooring guy coming in May. They're going to do my siding. And after that's done, then I'll list with you. When do you put them on that calendar?
In April,
Yep.
before the flooring or the siding guy comes in May.
Yep. And then, so you put them on that calendar. So they're on for call it April 10th, right?
Yep.
So they're in your calendar, they're in Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, iCalendar, whatever calendar you use. So say you have 10 of those, you stick them in your calendar, right?
Yep.
Are you going to remember exactly how many phone calls that you have on that list and what months they're in?
No.
No,
Right?
no.
How do we bridge that gap?
That Excel spreadsheet you have up there? Thought maybe I just,
Yes. What are so scale of 1 to 10, how Excel friendly is everybody on the call?
I'm not on that scale.
Okay.
10. I'm pretty good with that.
Okay.
I'm not answering, Danny.
I know. Okay. So we have all this stuff on our calendar for dates in the future. We have somebody who wants to list in the end of this month. We have somebody who wants to list in May. We have somebody who wants to list next year. We have somebody who wants to list in September, right? So we have all these people plugged into our calendar out there in the ether, but we need them all in one spot, like a quick glance of, okay, here's my solid pipeline, like that from the MREA that says people that you haven't met turn into people you do meet, turn into clients, turn into your biggest fans, right? So I would suggest finding a way to bridge that gap between lead generation and lead follow-up. So if it's Excel, use Excel. If it's Whiteboard, if it's a piece of paper, so my go-to for jotting things down that I don't want to lose, I use like a cardstock piece of paper with a Sharpie written on it. So if I have a stack of files in my, or a stack of paper in my bag, or a stack of paper on my desk, I can go and grab and I can figure out which one is important just by feeling the paper, right? So the stuff you print out that you just attended a class, or all that junk mail, whatever that's on your desk, if it's like a little bit heavier stock of paper, I know that's important to me. I don't know why that works for me, it just does, but find those little quirky things. Does anybody keep their pipeline on a whiteboard? Yes. Pros and cons of whiteboard pipeline life.
Who, me?
Yep.
Pros are, it's literally right there.
In your face.
Yeah, you can keep an eye on your hottest and greatest, your A or B clients, your ones that are immediate. Once you get a couple of leads, there's so much business that gets lost in the lead follow-up. They're like, oh shoot, I had them, we had a great conversation, we met, they love me, and you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to follow up with them because there were no new houses that came on for 30 days and they thought I abandoned them.
Yep.
So that's one of the biggest pros to it. Cons are, I would say, not everybody is a visual person. I'm a visual person. I would rather have it there on a whiteboard than doodling it on a piece of paper, because I'd end up writing something over that on a piece of paper. As long as you stay updated with it, as long as you stay with it, and just don't get too lazy because the names are on the board, and all of a sudden 8 months later you're like, I look at that name every day, how come I didn't follow up with them?
Yeah. Another con to whiteboard life, so pro to whiteboard life, I love having it right in my face, right? So you can't avoid it, right? If it's hung above your computer, if it's something that you walk past every day, it's gonna be the one tapping you on the shoulder, not the other way around, right? The con to whiteboard life for me is that once you erase it, it's gone forever. Forever, ever, right?
Yep.
So say Larry at 123 Main Street wanted to list January 11th. It's January 11th today. They decided, oh, just kidding, never mind, we're going to stay here for 4 more years. You wipe that off your board, and that you forget that conversation ever happened. Maybe if you called Larry in 6 months, he'd be like, oh, geez, you know what? I was wrong. So once you erase it off of a whiteboard, it's gone forever. So if you keep it in Excel, you can just copy and paste and move that right around. So we had attended a class with, I think it was Jeff Glover, right, Billy?
Yes.
Okay, so this is his method of keeping track of his pipeline, which I absolutely love. Can you guys see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So, so instead of just kind of lumping everybody into a list or putting a date next to them, or this is the way that Jeff's team out in Michigan, they do like 1,200 transactions a year. It's kind of crazy. This is how they prioritize their pipelines. So for listings, they do 0 to 7 days. So who in your life is going to list their house this week? The B's are 7 to 30 days. So by the end of the month, which listings do you have on? C's, I probably should have padded that with a few more days, but that's all right. You get the concept. And then D's, 45 days, 60 days, however it works for you in your brain. So you could toggle all of these different time frames to whatever works for you. But I love having this visual of like a consecutive list of this is what's coming down the pipe. Okay, and then the same thing for buyers. So I feel like buyers are the easiest to kind of let slip through the cracks, right? The some days or the looky-loos or whatever. But here, if you kept them in some sort of order like this, you know what's going on. So somebody that I showed this to in the past were like, well, how do you know that a buyer will buy in 0 to 7 days? You don't. But you know, the ones that if their dream house or if that house that they're described came on the market tomorrow, you know that they're ready to jump, right? So the listing pipeline might be actually literal in terms of the timeline. The buyer pipeline might be more figurative. So, you know, your hot buyers, your lukewarm, your looky-loos, and then the Ds might be people who aren't even pre-approved yet, or they're talking about buying in 6 months, something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
Mhm.
Yes.
Anything you would add to this, take away? You're on mute.
I talk a lot, that's why I did that, is just to make sure that they move the Ds up to Cs and the Cs up to Bs in accordance. And if you're using the system properly and you're following up with everybody, there's no, you should be constantly moving those people from C to B, B to A, you know, D to C.
Yep.
And if the Ds get stuck there for so long, I think at some point you just got to hit delete and then be done with them and bring in new Ds.
Yep, correct.
I'm going to
Yes.
mute myself again.
Okay. Yes. And your lead generation to lead follow-up gap, this now becomes your touch them calendar, right? So how often would you touch your A clients?
I think every week.
At least, right? So if they're hot to trot buyers and you're actively, you know, keep paying attention to the new listings, you're going to be on them. If it's somebody who wants to list next week, you're going to say, hey, are you ready for photos? What does the kitchen look like? Did you get that shit out of the basement? All of those questions, right? How often would you touch your B clients?
Every week or two.
Okay,
I'd
too.
say so, right?
I had
So
to
if
look to
somebody
see, I had to look at mine.
So yeah, right? If somebody wants to list by the end of the month or within 4 weeks, you probably still for a listing want to make sure that they did the work they said they were going to do or everything's clean. I'll never forget the time we took a listing in Hanson and this little old lady woman was a hoarder and she lived by herself. She was a widow and she was the cutest lady I ever met and she was so sweet. And it was my first time going to the house to meet the listing photographer. And I thought Billy D pranked me and sent me to the wrong house because I walked in and every room was empty except for the kitchen. And it was very not empty to the tune of on her kitchen island that you could barely see. It was like tangerines and tissues and medication and sunblock and notebooks and craziness, right? So that was somebody that we were in active communication with, and still, the listing still got a little bit delayed. The hoarding lifestyle got the best of her, right?
Good times.
Good times. You see? How often would you follow up with them?
I mean, the more, you know, Danny, something with that is the other thing is you can follow up with people and you can figure out how quickly they're going to move from a C to a B or B to an A. I think the more you follow up with them, the more you figure out, because some people will tell you, hey, we're not going to do anything for 6 months to a year. And they won't really tell you why. It's because they're not ready. Like that woman, she was ready, but she wasn't ready. She was constantly getting ready to get ready.
Yep.
And it was just like, we just had to be there.
Yep.
I'm a firm believer. I don't think you can overly communicate with somebody. I very rarely have I ever had somebody complain about me calling them too much. You know, well, once or twice, but very, very rarely.
We won't talk about the restraining orders on this call.
Restraining orders. We're past that point.
Yeah,
I don't think you
Billy,
can overly... Go ahead, David.
I was gonna say, I couldn't agree with you more because, you know, people's timelines are always off, you know, so if somebody's pushing you out 6, 8, 9 months, you know, you're definitely not going to wait 6 to 9 months because the house will probably already be listed and it'll be with somebody else other than you. So I think you got to err on the side of caution and just keep in the back of your head that timeline is probably not their timeline. And if you follow up too much, then that's probably okay. At least you're not going to get shut out of the situation there.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. So you could absolutely use this structure on a whiteboard. You could put it in Excel. You could make it on a sheet of paper, whatever works for you. You could also put your notes next to it, right? Larry Johnson, call next on whatever love notes you have. You can put next to them so that you don't forget. You can get a little bit creative with it. Make it work for you, right? Your D people, how often would you call them?
Mine was usually every 30 days.
Right?
Yeah.
Something like that. You could even put next to them, you know, the next call date. So one D might literally be 45 days. The other D might be 3 months from now, you know? So at least you have a game plan, right? You can see what's coming down the pipeline. So based on your goals for the year, right? So going from realtor, real estate agent to business owner, you could set a goal to have X amount of names in each category, right? To hit your goals. So if you're looking for a motivator during lead generation time, right? You can look at this and say, oh, shoot, I only have 3 people in my C category and my B's not looking so hot and my A's not looking so hot. That means for the next, you know, 60 days, it's looking a little bleak. So I would use this as like kind of a scorecard, right, Billy?
Yes, I'll keep myself. I know that we try to always have, I think, 10 in each category or 5 in each category. And that
Yeah.
might sound like a lot to people, but it's really not if you're treating this like a business and you're actually doing it every day. And if you have 5 in each category, you're always going to, agents, it happens to them all the time. They close out what they have and they have nothing behind it. But if you're
Yep.
able to move the A's to close, the B's to A's, C's to B's, and, you know, right down the line, that's how you run a successful business.
Yep. And there's always going to be attrition, right? So people will ghost you. They'll drop off the board. They'll change their mind. They'll move in with their parents instead. So there's always going to be attrition there. So everybody has a conversion rate. And this will kind of help you gauge what's coming down the pipeline, fill in the gaps. I would absolutely set a goal for yourself to have X amount of people in each one of the categories at all times. Does that make sense? Does that help? Yes. Yeah. All right. So we talked about attrition. We talked about ghosting, right? Has anybody seen the economic model?
By the way,
oh, yep.
Sorry, Danny. I was going to say, if you don't have anybody in any of those categories, that's the time where you got to start calling everyone you know.
Yeah, you break out the paddles, right? It's time to resuscitate.
Yep.
Clear. Boop.
That's right.
Yep, exactly. All right. So actually, before I go into the economic model, pop quiz again, right? MREA. What are the 4 models for a real estate agent's business?
You said open book test, right?
Yep.
Steve.
Hit me with the models, baby.
I'm sitting next to Steve next time.
Yeah.
Mine's on my desk, baby.
Lead gen model.
Yep. What else?
I'm not answering them all.
One is on here, down the bottom. Economic. Budget. And organizational. Not like cleaning schedule, like who is on my team, what role are they doing? So it's like a personnel map. Okay, so you have the lead gen model, you have the budget model, you have the economic model, and the organizational model. So what the pipeline ties right into the economic model from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Okay, it's like sales funnel 101, right? So you have leads from your lead generation, you have your lead follow-up, you have conversion, and then you have sales. So the 5 tasks of a real estate agent blend with the 4 models from the MREA, and that's the secret sauce of moving from realtor to business owner, right? So the 5 tasks that you need to do all the time, every day plus the 4 models. They blend hand in hand. So the economic model looks like this. If I were to ask everybody on this call what a great year in real estate would look like, numbers wise, I guarantee that everybody on this call would have a different answer, right? If you've been around for 25 years, if you're part-time, if you're full-time, if this is your first year in real estate, everybody's going to have a different answer. Everybody has a different schedule, desire of quality of life, desire of money. So everybody's on a separate page. But what the economic model will do is a lot of times when you ask an agent their goals, they'll say, I want to do 25 deals this year, right? It's always deals, 10 deals, 8 deals. Or it will be, I want to make $100,000. I want to make $200,000. I want to make $1 million. That sounds fabulous. And I want everyone to hit all of those goals. And this is how you create a plan of how to get there. So when this looks intimidating for anybody who's not higher on the C or the S scale on the disc, so anybody that's not detail oriented, this just looks like a ton of words and a ton of lines, but it's right? It's so many words. It's not just words. So we'll go, I like to start from the bottom up on this one, right? So net income or number of transactions at the very bottom, right? So that's our goal. Our expenses, we'll talk about those in a minute because we need to know what our expenses are. Your gross revenue, right? So there's always going to be expenses, whether it's your split with a market center, split with a team, your monthly agent bill, your realtor dues, your database, whatever those are. Every agent is going to have expenses. Okay. And then it talks about creating a separate goal for listings and a separate goal for buyers. I think that's hugely important, especially in the market that we're in right now. How many people love working with buyers today? Meredith? Billy? Davey?
I do not.
I do.
Steve?
No.
I do.
Is it tougher right now? Would you say the conversion from offer to UAG is a little tough?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we set that goal of like, let's do 100 transactions at the end of the year. But this is where kind of the nuts and bolts come into play, right? So in a market where the inventory is, normal and stable, your conversion for buyers would be significantly different than it is this year, right? So you're going to show more properties, you're going to write more offers, you're going to try to make everything you can stick. So with that said, to convert from meeting a buyer for your initial consultation, right, to getting them closed, there's a few hoops that you kind of have to jump through, right? So you go from the initial meeting, your buyer, it says buyer listing appointment, but that's really your initial buyer consultation. Maybe it didn't fit here, right? So, and then it says buyer listing taken, but that means like you're married, right? You're committed to that buyer's committed to you. I know a lot of us don't use the buyer agent agreement, but if we did, they would be the ones that would sign with us, right? So there's a hoop to jump through to get them from their initial consultation to being your main squeeze, right? So the goal is to find your conversion rate, right? So how many people did I go on buyer consultations with, and how many of them loved me and want to work with me? Hoop number 1, right? Hoop number 2 is getting that committed buyer. There's even more steps in here, but for right now, we'll stick to this, and then we'll backtrack a little bit. So from your committed buyers to getting them sold, you're going to have a conversion rate, right? So maybe they're experiencing a little bit of buyer fatigue right now and they put their plans on hold. Maybe they're super aggressive and you put them under first shot, right? So there's a conversion rate right there. Then you have your average sales price and your average commission, right? So if we did the math, there's actually a form like an Excel formulated sheet where you can just plug in like 2 numbers and the rest will calculate for you. So I can send that out to everybody if you want it. So this does the math for you. So how many buyer appointments, initial consultations do you need to close X amount of transactions with buyers or gross X amount of dollars from buyers? Does it make your head hurt yet? Or is it good?
No, it's good. It's
Okay.
good.
All right, the same thing for listings for sellers, right? So you go on your initial CMA, you get that first phone call, come out, I want to list, I want my market analysis. So there's a hoop to jump through to get them from CMA to actually listed. And then there's a hoop of getting that listing taken to listing sold. So that's another conversion rate, right? There's attrition between all of these different levels. If we start to pay attention and track our numbers and have a pipeline, we'll get a feel, right, automatically. So if you're not a super nerd and actually keep track of, I had this many CMAs, I took this many listings, this many sold, just by creating a pipeline, you're gonna kind of see a natural rhythm of, oh shoot, I went on 3 listing appointments, I got 1. Or, oh, I went on 4 and I got 3. So you'll start to recognize a pattern, right? The erasing the people off the pipeline get a little more painful the more you pay attention, right? So I feel like sometimes that discomfort of like, oh, if I write down a budget, then I'll have to stick to it. Or if I create a plan, I'll have something to be accountable to. I feel like sometimes that's a little bit uneasy, but just do it, right? Just do it. Okay. So then you'll have your listing sold. You'll have an average sales price, an average commission. And then the 2 of those combined are what brings you your net income, right? So if we actually fill this out, we would have a roadmap of, to get to 25 closed sales, I would need 20 buyer appointments and 20 listing appointments based on my conversion rates, right? If 3 buyers ghost me, if 2 people list with somebody else, if 1 person decides not to sell, I'll still hit my goals. So the goal doesn't change, but the number of initial appointments you need might need to change, right? The better your conversion rate, the smaller need for the appointments at the top, right? And once you start paying attention to these trends in your business, you'll look at where you're excelling, right? So if you're getting like 110% list price to sold price to list price, right? You're crushing CMAs, you're crushing market values, right? So, but if there was a gap there, that's a point in your business that maybe that's where you focus your education. You take 3 classes on how to do a CMA, or you pick 3 agents' brains in the office and say, listen, I'm struggling here, help me, how do you do it? So the more you pay attention to these, the more you can fill it back in with scripts or education or classes or picking other people's brains. So in coaching, if we're struggling on our team, our coach will always walk us backwards, right? So if we didn't have enough, oops, that's my phone. If we didn't have enough closings in January, our coach is going to say, okay, well, you didn't have enough closings, but did you sign enough contracts? Or did you write enough offers? Yes or no? If you didn't write enough contracts, did you take enough appointments to begin with? Yes or no? Right? So it always, you know, the number of sales always flows back up to the number of leads, right? So wherever there's a kink in the chain is your opportunity to grow and improve. Make sense?
Mhm.
Helpful? Any questions, comments, concerns?
Danny, I'm just gonna say, people definitely track your numbers, because there was somebody that Danny and I talked with a couple of years ago, and they said they were 100%. They had 100% ratio to close, and we started going through. We're like, well, didn't the guy die? And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about him. Like, all right, so you're already at like 96. And
You're
we're like,
literally in the hole.
and then we kept going through, And this guy was really cocky. And within like 5 minutes, he went from 100% to like 42%.
Yeah.
And if you know your numbers, you're going to know exactly. Honestly, you'll work less. You're going to work less hours if you just know these numbers and just say, if I hit all these numbers, I'm gonna have a successful business. So know your numbers and don't lie to yourself because you're only kidding yourself.
Yeah, agreed. And this pipeline report, like if anybody's antsy right now because you're not tracking this and you're staying up at night and you're like, oh shoot, you just feel that kind of invisible cloud of like, where's my next transaction coming from? Or I don't know if I'm doing enough or what, you know, that uncertainty. Keeping a pipeline like this wipes it all away, right? So if you just like focus your efforts on filling your pipeline, the rest will take care of itself. So I feel like the pipeline is the key to life of that like invisible stress of like, oh, where's more coming from? Because you have a plan and it's like right in front of your eyes. Does that make sense? Yes?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so we have our pipeline tracker. We have a plan for lead generation, right? Because we have our pipeline, we know what bays we need to fill. We have a lead follow-up plan because we're tracking client urgency. You can track appointments. That's the next task on the top 5, right? Lead generate, lead follow-up appointments. So you can track those on here if you wanted. You create you could copy and paste people and create like a converted report down here if you wanted to. If not, you can pull from MLS the amount of listings you've taken, from KW, how many buyers you've put under, all that stuff is tracked for you in the KW reports. I can show you where to find that in a little bit too. And then the same thing on contracts. So this between your pipeline and your economic model, create that focused effort. Next, from there, well, wait, let's go back a minute. So we have a pipeline, right, of our urgent, not urgent, kind of urgent clients, prospective clients, right? Where are they besides this pipeline report? Where do they live? Their contact information.
Database.
Don't say napkins. Don't say
Used to be.
Post-it, please, right? They should be somewhere, all in one spot. Name, phone number, email address, physical address, right? It doesn't matter if it's command. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if you hate command. Put them somewhere. If it's Excel, if it's a Google contact, please just put them all somewhere and have them all in one spot. The MREA book literally revolves around you having a database. So these tools are in addition to that. So this doesn't replace your database. This is like in addition. This is like an extra tool to get you focused, right? So we go through this amazing pipeline. You move people from D to C to B to A, you get them closed. What do we do with them then? Love on them more, right? Say we hit our goal of 25 for the year. Who was our top referrer? Where did our business come from? What's the plan to get more business, right? So the easiest way to get more business is to keep doing what worked for you in the first place, right? So Meredith, you were a school teacher, right?
Yes.
So if your primary source of business from 2020 was school teachers and you crushed your goals, would you start buying online leads from Zillow?
No.
Why?
Because I would go to the teachers.
Right? So if it's, say your primary source of business was from a networking group, right? Would you throw a ton of money at online leads, or would you join another business networking group?
Join another business networking group.
Right, yay. So, in addition to this pipeline report, what I would highly, highly suggest keeping track of is your closed sales, right? So if you love Excel, use something like this. If you hate Excel, find something that works for you. If it's a piece of paper in a notebook, if it's a Word document, find whatever works for you. But I would strongly, strongly suggest creating a report that you can look at kind of quickly to figure out, oh, shoot, I got 5 referrals from my friend John this year. I need to love on John, and I need to spoil him to death, right? Because John is he's my billboard, right? If I could make $50,000 off of John this year, and maybe another 30 next year, and maybe 40 the year after, let's love John. Like, right? Why not? And let's find 3 more Johns, right? So here's what I keep track of, right? So I keep track of listings versus buyers, just like the economic model, because you want to see the MREA talks about like a 50-50 kind of balance between listings and buyers to maintain a healthy real estate business. So I keep track of how many listings were sold, what towns they were in. Why would we want to know that?
Market share.
Market share. Back in the day when we could actually really focus Facebook ads to communities, this was super helpful, right? So if we're the top agent in Hanson, we're gonna market pretty heavily in Hanson, right? What else? Closing dates, right? So you'll start to notice a pattern of like seasonality in your business, right? So maybe Steve gets super busy in January and most other agents are dead, right? And then Steve can go back and say, well, oh, I crushed January. What did I do in December and November that made me crush January? Or like, oh, my March looks a little slow. What did I do in December, January that made my March tank a little bit, right? Did you take time off or you didn't, whatever it is. So your numbers start to tell the story of your business, right? Your sales price. So in the Keller Williams portal, it tracks your average sales price for you. But if you wanted like a one-stop shop, that's kind of what I use this sheet for. Your GCI. So when it comes to a profit and loss, we need to know what we made and spent to track our profit, right? So it's not just we need to know our expenses, but we need to pay attention to how much we actually made. So I know a ton of agents that have no clue what their commissions were or what their 1099 is going to look like at the end of the year. But if you just kept a running tally like this, you'll have an idea. So especially when it comes to this time of year, when you're looking at Uncle Sam knocking on the door, you'll be a little prepared as to how much you should have set aside for taxes and not in that oops category that Joan was talking about a little bit ago. Outside referrals. So I would track, right? So say one of your primary sources of business is agent to agent referral. You want to know that, right? So then if that's working for you, how did you get agent referrals? Where did they come from? Where did you meet them? Then you can do more of those activities to produce more of that business, because especially if it came to you kind of naturally without tracking this, it's kind of hard to see the picture, right? When you're in it, but this kind of zooms out of your business, right? So often we're in that like lead gen or who do I need to call or, you know, what needs to happen today, but this helps you kind of zoom out, take a step back and analyze what's happening around you. Okay. Track your net. You could also put a column in here for your cap, or if you had a member on your team, you could put a column in there to see how much your buyer's agent or your showing assistant made. That's super helpful when you're team building to know what the people on your team are making, right? And how much you're paying them and if they're worth the squeeze, right? The juice has to be worth the squeeze. Okay. If you have a team, I would put an agent column on here, or if you're in a partnership, so that you could see who generated the lead on your team. And then like mandatory column, I know some people on this call are triggered by the word mandatory. Mandatory column is the lead source column, right? This is where we know where to put our efforts for marketing, for lead generation. If you are naturally high I, I'm willing to bet that your lead source is going to be a ton of people that you know, right? Because you love to call people, you love to get belly to belly with people, you love the networking groups. If you're lower on the scale of I, if you do a lot of online marketing, if you do a lot of farming, this might look a lot different, right? No judgment. But if you're an introvert who has 3 different farms in 3 different towns and it's paying off for you, keep doing that, right? So this is where you can see where your efforts are paying off. Okay. Lead source. So I kind of, I took out our actual data out of here, but in this lead source name category, I would put, if this transaction was referred to somebody in my sphere of influence by the name of like Jane Doe, I would put her name here. And then I would have like Jerry, whatever, right? This is the name of the actual person that connected me to that. If it was me, I'll put me. Right? And say that right? So then our lead sources start to tell a story. And then we can see who our top referrers are. Maybe this is a lender, right? Maybe it's an attorney, maybe it's our plumber, maybe it's our electrician. So without keeping track and kind of having this in your face, it's easy to forget where your business came from. It's easy to forget who your top referrer from your database is, or it's easy to sign up for online leads or spend money on this or spend money on that. But this report helps you to focus your marketing dollars and your marketing efforts to do more of what you did, right? Here I would put the actual client's name. If you wanted to start tracking the attorneys that your clients used or the lenders that your clients are using, I will put them in here too, because say somebody on here, and I just kind of filled these in willy-nilly, but say that you had approached an attorney for marketing dollars, right? Say, hey, I love your firm. We've done a ton together. What do you say we send out co-branded postcards, right? And that attorney comes back and says, we did a ton together. There's no way. You sent me like one person this year. No, you have a report that you can go back and pull and say, wait a minute, we sent you 20 people. We sent you 13, whatever the number is, right? So, and at quick glance, say this transaction didn't go so hot, right? And in 3 months from now, you're like, oh shoot, who was that attorney on that deal that I said I would never refer anybody to again, right? Who's had that happen? Nobody here, right?
No.
Never. All attorneys are created equally, right? Same with lenders. Oh my God, I love lenders. Okay. So this helps you shift from a real estate agent to a business owner who has data that they can analyze and make decisions from, right? Instead of just kind of shooting from the hip and pulling things out of the air. And I think I sold 2 in Marshville last year, but you really sold 6, right? You think your average sales price is $490, but it's really $610. This is where like you can drill down the actual data. And like I said, if you don't love Excel, don't use Excel, but find whatever it is that will work for you. Any questions on this? Anything you would add or take away, or love, hate?
That one's a must for people, Danny. I know for us, we, all of a sudden, like she said, all of a sudden you realize you're like, geez, John's got us 3 referrals in the last year. And most of the people that send referrals are just regular people. And if you can double down on regular people, then they're in a world that's different from ours. They're loving on us by giving us the referral. And if we give back, they become the biggest talking, walking billboard that you can ever possibly have. And they're going to be huge. So definitely keep track of where it's coming from and take care of your people.
Mhm. Even if it's not a person, even if it is Zillow leads, right? Then you'll know I spent $13,000 this year on online leads. What did I get back for it? Right?
Yeah, we see people, say all the time, well, I made, I closed 4 deals on Zillow last year. We're like, okay, but how much did you spend? Like, well, I closed 4 deals. I'm like, okay,
Yep.
but how much did you spend? And if you spent a fraction on that, loving your own people in your database, could you have made more money? And the answer is yes. We know that for a fact.
Yeah. And if you're spending $1 on marketing, you should get 3 back. Right? It might not be, maybe in the first 6 months, you're in the hole on that. But if you play it out long term and you do what you're supposed to do with whatever lead source you have, if you're spending $1, you should get 3 back. So say this was our only online lead, Facebook ads, right? So if we dumped $5,000 on boosting our listings on Facebook and we're not seeing Facebook show up anywhere on here, does it mean stop boosting listings altogether online?
No,
Right. Why?
you still post, just don't pay for it.
Right. Or if you wanted to convert that into a lead source, right? That means it's time to dive in and figure out how to make it work.
Right.
Right? Sometimes, especially lately, I feel like boosting things on social media are one for our own brand recognition, right? Just to show up in people's news feeds and have them say, oh, hey, I've seen that guy before. And it's to make our sellers happy, right? Do we look like absolute rock stars if we're like, hey, we just boosted your listing on Facebook and it got, 3,000 views or whatever? Yeah, you look like a rock star. Don't put, if you're not getting anything back on it, boost it for $10 instead of 100, right? So you can start making better money decisions in business if you can actually point and see like, okay, so online, let's change this to Facebook. So I made $4,800 on Facebook last year. What did I spend on it? Right? Any questions? Anything you would add to this spreadsheet or take away? Is it too much? Is it too little?
I think it's great.
I think it looks good.
Yeah, it looks really good.
I just need to learn Excel now.
Put it on my tab, right?
Steve, put it out there on Fiverr. Have somebody pay somebody a small amount of money to do it for you. Set it and forget it, and you're done one time, and you just move on. Danny will attest. I'm not the brightest guy on this Zoom call today, but I know what I'm good at, and it's none of the things that Danielle's good at. I'm good at like 1 or 2 things, so don't get bogged down. Just find somebody that will do it for a reasonable price and set it up one time, and it's done. You can utilize it forever.
But it's something that I've always wanted to learn, so
Yeah,
it's time to learn.
it's time. So you saw what I kind of created to make sense in my brain as to what we were doing and how to make more money or to fix it or scrap it or whatever. There are reports that are available to you in Keller Williams that are automatically generated. Mine are going to have, disclaimer, mine are going to have zeros because I'm not a producing agent, right? Yours are going to be filled in, but I'll show you where to find them. I didn't want to show anybody's numbers without asking them first, and I just dawned on me to do this. So if you're logged into my KW, click on this reports tab. Okay, and you're going to hover over reports up at the top here. There's going to be a whole bunch of them. Just focus on this associate tab to start. If you have profit share, you can play in the profit and growth share reports. Those will have all sorts of data for you on your profit share. But the two transactions, the two reports in here that I love the most are this multi-year trends report. So if you didn't want to go and start an Excel sheet from scratch, or you're like, shit, this is a great idea. Why didn't I do this the past 3 years I've been at Keller Williams? You don't have to go back and start from scratch. It's all in here, in theory. Okay, like I said, mine's going to be goose eggs, but all of this is being tracked for you, right? So this is it's called a multi-year trend report. So it's going to show me over the past 5 years, how many units did I close per month, per year? Okay, it's going to show me closed sales volume, listings taken, listing volume, listing sold volume. It's going to show you your average sales price per month. So all of these would be filled in. So if you had 0 closings in March, your average sales price would be 0. But if you close 3 in April, it would average those out and have a number there for you. And then it will total them out over here on the right. Your GCI, which is your gross commission income. So that's before paying any outside referrals that you paid. Your split with Keller Williams is your gross commission income. Okay. It will show you company dollar. So if you say, oh, shoot, I can't remember how long it took me to cap in 2017, you would go in here. The dates that you paid into cap would have a number in them, and then you would see where it stopped, and that's where you capped, right? And then your 1099 income is your take home, right? So that's that lovely letter that you get from Tang at the end of the year that says, like, this is what you're going to be taxed on. Your 1099 number will be here. Okay. So this is great because it will show you seasonality in your business. So say you take the month of February off every year, right? There's February vacation and you go skiing or whatever. You just like unplug every February. That's your big why. Every February I want to take off and spend with my family, right? Or you name it, right? Say I had a medical emergency in this month and this year, and you can see how that impacted your business, right? So your numbers you'll see here will start to tell a story. There's some agents that always have like 1 month where they have 0 closings for some reason, right? So you can always trace that back though, right? Say you had a stellar August in 2018 before you tracked any of this crap, right? You can go back and jog your memory and say, in May of 2018, what the hell did I do to crush August, right? Is this data overload?
It's really helpful, actually.
Good. What else? And then shoot, it's covered by my Zoom up here. But if we go back into reports and back into associate, there's a monthly production summary report or sales transaction detail that'll break out. So if you had an outgoing referral or you wanted a list of transactions that you closed, you can play in these reports over here. Alrighty. So to get there again, it was in my KW, this little teeny reports button, and then associate. And that's where all of those live. What else? We're just about 2 o'clock. I know we had talked about creating a profit and loss statement. My advice for you, I use QuickBooks, but if that's like over your head and intimidating, don't use QuickBooks, right? you could use a Word document and fill in, I made $10,000 in February. My agent bill was, $53. I did a Facebook ad for $50 and I sent out postcards, right? And then you literally just take what you made and subtract what you spent. And there's your profit and loss, right? So you can overcomplicate it and do QuickBooks, or you can literally just keep a tally. I highly, highly, highly suggest keeping, even if it's not a business account, like a literal business account at the bank or a literal business credit card, I would highly, highly recommend opening up an account that you just use for real estate, like a credit card and a checking account. So if you have an LLC, if you have your business license or whatever, you could do it as a business account. If not, just open up another personal account, get another ATM card or debit card, get another credit card. So that way, at the end of the year, if you had to go through every time you stopped at Dunkin' Donuts to fish out what you spent in Facebook ads, that's painful. That's so painful. Please don't do that. Right? Just open up a separate account, have everything come out of there. Then you're looking at a handful of transactions per month instead of when I do my crazy on steroids budget for the month, maybe I have 35 personal transactions of like Puppuccinos and my horrible diet, Chick-fil-A, but if I just had a separate account that just had like, oh, I paid for Dotloop this month or whatever, so much easier. That way to recreate a year, you don't have to take a month to do it. You could do it pretty quickly. Right? Keep it simple, stupid. Questions? I don't want to keep anybody any longer.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay. You're like, just keep talking.
You're going to learn Excel. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he's going to learn Excel.
Yeah, I'm going to YouTube it.
Questions? Anything I missed on how to go from a realtor to a business owner?
No, Danny, I'm just going to follow up though. Those multi-year trends, what Danny says, all those numbers, the reason you track all these things is because everything tells a story. But you have to track it and then step back and look at it. The story that the multi-year trends told us was we would never close anything in February. Okay, I was like, oh, for February in the last X amount of years. And what it told us was that I started shutting it down in November as I said, hey, it's the end of the year. So when you stop doing that, all of a sudden you start closing in February because whatever you stop working today, 90 days from now, you're not going to get paid. So we brought it back and said, geez, we start hitting like November 10th and we're like, oh, it's the end of the year. Let's just cash out. The numbers don't lie. So Danny's a big brain. We love her for that. So follow systems. Systems mean something. And I hate systems. I really do.
Yep, you do. What else?
I want systems. I'm just that first step is the worst one, the hardest one.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Action steps. Oh, on my little handy dandy flyer, I put motivation. Well, Diana made me like a pretty graphic for the Facebook page. So we talked about building a foundation, and the foundation's like monitoring your data, right? We're like motivation, staying motivated. I feel like motivation is a huge differentiator between a realtor and a business owner, right? Where are you finding your good juju during a pandemic? When you can't go sit at the bar. For the love of dear God, I just want to sit at a bar. Where are you finding your good juju?
I'm finding it in podcasts, books, and a handful of people that I keep in arm's length distance.
Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say podcasts and books too.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, I was taking the dog for a walk when it was much warmer and listening to podcasts. I
Yeah.
find that I need to get, I'm saying this quietly, I need to get away from the family for a little bit.
Struggles real,
Yes.
Steve.
The walls that I thought were thick and far away from each other are closing in.
Yeah. It's suffocating. Yeah.
It is.
hmm I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Oh,
And
Which
I need
should
to
be fun
so
and should be
frequently-
exciting to come home to.
It is like I get a welcoming committee every time I walk through the door, but I also get that when I'm exiting the bathroom and entering the bathroom and I'm loading the dishwasher and
For the second
cooking
time in the
on a
day.
stove. Like those
Danielle.
are all great things. Yeah.
my kids are, well, I have one teenager, one almost teenager, and a 6-year-old, but the 2 older ones hide in their room all day. I miss when they followed me into the bathroom.
I know everybody says that, but when you're in it, man,
I know.
Struggles
when you're in
real.
it, you're like, get a job for the love of God. Like,
Get
you have somewhere to be. Right? Yeah. So one of my favorite listens from our lockdown time was Win, Make, Give. It was Ben Kinney out of Washington State. So he's a super duper billionaire extraordinaire that started out living in like a 1-bedroom shack with his dad, and they shared
Yeah.
sleeping on a couch.
Yep.
Like super inspirational story. And now his goal is to make like 20 people millionaires. So he did a Win, Make, Give series that talks about creating a personal budget, knowing how much you need for retirement, creating a wealth building plan. I loved that. I loved listening to Via Williams from his team too, who's up in Washington State.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the name? I haven't listened to this podcast, but I want to. It's called Empire Builders. They are a group of women at KW who serve different roles. So one is Via Williams, 2 own agent teams. One runs a team, is like a sales director for a team. They're called Empire Builders, and they're all moms with big lives trying to keep their shit together.
Is it Wendy Papasan, one of those? One of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, so her husband, helped write the MREA. He's Gary's right-hand person.
Yeah. You see him on stage at family reunion and mega camp and stuff. So they live huge lives, have kids, and are trying to keep their shit together. They came from just normal families, middle-class families, and now Jay and Wendy are net worth millionaires. So they own like 12 rental properties, but they still are worth $1 million on paper. Crazy, right? A lot of people own a lot of buildings, but they don't have that to show at the bottom of the piece of paper. What else? I binged some like seriously dark stuff on Netflix, so I have to balance it somewhere. Dave always, he popped off, but Dave always judges my my Netflix choices. They're pretty dark. I need to balance it with some light and some real estate.
What do you like, serial killer documentaries?
Yes. Or like how to fix a drug scandal about the 2 women that worked at the drug labs in Massachusetts. Crazy.
Oh, I saw that one too. Yeah.
Yes. They were just doing like copious amounts of drugs while claiming to have tested all of the confiscated samples. It's crazy. Yes. What
Danielle,
else?
what was the first podcast you mentioned?
Win, Make, Give
Win, Make, Give. Okay.
by Ben Kinney. He there's if you go to winmakegive.com, I think there's like downloadable worksheets and stuff. So they'll say like, look at the net worth calculator or whatever. But if you go to that website, all of the downloads are there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I've been listening to him a lot too in my walks. And I think the last thing he may have done was he shared a story about just turning right. Did you listen to that?
Yes.
Where he went for a road trip and he took a wrong turn and he's like, oh, well, I'm just going to turn right. And then he stayed somewhere and caught up with an old friend and then jumped on the road again and he turned right. And he ended up going from the West Coast to
Maine.
Connecticut. Was it? I thought it was Connecticut.
Maybe. Yeah. Something crazy. I'm like, oh my God. He
But
literally he took a business meeting on a Wednesday or something.
Yep.
He was like, oh shit, I need to go meet so-and-so lender for coffee. And he had like a lifetime breakdown and said, I'm not going home. I had nothing. He had nothing packed. He doesn't
Yep.
have wife or kids or anything. So there's
Right.
no strings attached there, but he leads like these huge businesses. He owns like 27 real estate businesses, market centers and all that. And he just said, screw it all. I'll work like 2 hours a day out of my truck, like fishing from a creek somewhere in Wyoming, and we'll call it a day.
And I think at the end, when he finally pulled back into his driveway, I
Mhm.
think his truck died.
Oh my
Like
God.
he made that huge journey and then the truck just died.
Of course it did. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know.
Imagine having that opportunity to like not a care in the world, just to be able to drive.
It probably
might
took
not-
him a lot of cares
No
to
agenda.
get to that. I don't care.
I might not come back.
I know. I told my mom I was going to hide in a random parking lot and take a snooze.
I'm going to the store to get milk, kids. I'll be right back.
Literally.
30 days
Yeah.
later.
Find the good juju, especially if it's hard to find it in yourself. Find it somewhere. What else? Action steps. Who's going to implement what from today?
Well, I already said I'm gonna teach myself Excel.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely
It's
gonna.
probably not gonna go well, but I'll try it.
But
Good
you
luck.
could he use Google spreadsheets too? Would that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
That's what my file was. I can share that with you if you want it.
Okay.
Yeah. What else? And if not, just pull your multi-year trends report.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Cool. Cool.
I really thought that part was gone. I thought my KW was done.
Oh no, the dashboard changed.
I thought everything was on command.
Oh yeah, it might. So that's a good question. I don't know if they'll navigate that data to the command dashboard at some point. It's not on there that I know of, though. I've like taken a little bit of a hiatus on that, and but I
On
know
command?
that I can learning new tricks in command.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, but it's all good, right? You can still sell houses without it.
Hmm.
What else? Yeah, utilize the KW reports. If not, pull your old data in MLS or whatever. It's all there. Do some digging, you know. That's all I got. If you ever need to pick my brain, you know where to find me. Usually I'm like in the back corner somewhere.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
And I'm
This
not
was
hiding
awesome.
here.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much. Let me know if you guys have any questions.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Thanks, Danny.
Bye. Thank you.
See ya.